hi, good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, whenever you're actually watching this. So, I don't know how to say it. Like, August was a hit or miss kind of. It wasn't actually a hit or miss. I ended up reading so many lovely books, but it was more just like I was just reading a lot more cozier stuff. Okay, to be fair, I am reading a lot more cozier stuff now. However, let's get into it. So I ended up reading a staggering number of 13 books, which honestly is actually quite good. One I actually physically read, every other one was kind of like partially physically because I have the books, but my library also has the audiobook. So I'm just going to be going through everything via my notes here, so on my journal. So the very first book that I ended up reading is The Awakening by Coralina Peckham. And honestly, this book, how do you say it? It was kind of like the most like not necessarily generic or anything like that, but more the two sisters who are having a very very hard time end up finding out that oh wow they're actually not human, instead they're fae, and them being thrust into this like going into the fae world, finding out they're changelings. However, they, because of like their family was murdered, all the men that are there that are supposed to be taking the throne after them are basically pissed off that they are alive, and they proceed to not only physically, emotionally manipulate and abuse them, and they for some reason still love these men. And I was just like, no, no. So I ended up giving it a 1 star. Will I be picking up the rest of the books in the series? I'm not necessarily sure. Maybe if I like want to go through those type of things again, but quite frankly, in the foreseeable future, not really. The next thing I ended up reading was Poison Study by Maria V. Sainter. So this one was a pleasant surprise. To be fair, I wasn't expecting to like it as much, but so essentially, we're basically the opening book. We're basically seeing this one person, our main protagonist, who's in the dungeon waiting to be executed, only to like come up to like talk to the other person, saying that oh, you know what, the mayor or like the regime, because like there's a kind of like slight dictatorship going on, needs a poison tester so that they don't end up being assassinated via poison. And so she is embarks in this journey of becoming a poison tester, but also figuring out that oh, she actually has magic. Oh yeah, there's magic in the world, by the way. And everything goes from there. I gave it 3 stars. I actually quite liked it. And then the next one I ended up reading is The Darkness Within Us by Trikina Levenseller. And so this is the second book into the darkest something. I forgot. I'll insert a picture if I can figure out what the book was from before. And essentially, we're basically following the protagonist, who is the sister from the person in the first book. And so the sister takes the harder way about doing things. So essentially, it's basically the story of how the sister doesn't really, basically, she hates, not necessarily she hates men, but she hates the idea of having people dictate her entire life for her, seeing that she had to like put up with her useless of a father who was taking abusing his way to just get what he wants, and is a severe how do you say that person, what they actually do, a gamble, he's a gambling addict. And so she basically waits for her dying husband to die, thinking that okay, she can have a finally live up her life. She really genuinely just wants a simple life, but then things go haywire when the grandson comes in, and all hell breaks loose. But it was kind of like a light-hearted read for me. Like it wasn't all that special, but it was just kind of nice. So I ended up giving 4 stars last month, but now that we're in September, I feel like it's like a 3.5. So yeah, 3.5. The next one is Saints of Storms and Sorrow by Gabriella Buba. I freaking loved it. So it was one of like my anticipated books of the year. So we're basically following our main protagonist, Maria, sorry. And so because of like she has to like, because something people are coming to basically take over her land. So basically colonialism is happening. This is a Filipino inspired fantasy, and so essentially she's basically having to hide in a convent, becoming a nun eventually. But like a lot of things are going on because of like every like person who has an inkling of different types of like magic or something is basically considered a witch and is burned or killed. So by hiding herself and hiding her abilities to keep herself but everyone around her safe, a lot of things are going on because of this. But also she has a relationship with this other person named Catherine, or short Cat. And honestly, to me, if okay, I do not condone violence. However, if Catherine was killed literally in the first half of this book, a lot of things could have been saved, because that girl was, those characters who basically have a self-hatred for themselves because of like they believe that by deep going into religion and everything like that, but also like this safe self-hate, thinking that if they do a certain way without having any critical thinking whatsoever, they can appease themselves. I don't know what is about them, but she definitely had a hatred for knowing that she is an islander, or at least half islander, and always like saw these like people that came to like colonize the land as something better, and she was trying to be like them but can't be like them. And I was just like, no, you are the problem. But I still like the book very much, so I gave it 4 stars. Then the next one I read was the favorite book of the month that I ended up reading is Blessing by Chuko Buka Ibe. And so we're basically following this one young boy who is dealing with different types of things. So at the beginning of the book, his father, so Obeafuna, that's the name of the boy, his father comes back with this one boy from the village that he needs to like, the father was going to like keep him around as like a houseboy to like further the boy's education so that he has an apprenticeship kind of thing. So Biafuna around the time as well is also kind of struggling because he has this infatuation with the boy but couldn't pinpoint why it is. So whilst we're following Biafuna's storyline, we're also following his mother's Ozuameka. And so in her storyline, it's basically her coming to terms with like telling her story of when she met Obeafuna's dad. However, also dealing with the fact that she's terminally ill, but also these type of like unconditional, not necessarily unconditional love, or maybe actually unconditional love, but like knowing that things are going on in Obeafuna's life, and she already like knew about it. You could call it maybe a mother's intuition. I'm not even sure if that actually is true or exists, but bear with me. And that was kind of like the things that's going on, because like not only does it deal with like being a young boy that knows that he's a bit different because he's queer, but also like around the time period, because this is taking place when Obiafuna was born, so in 1991, all the way to the end of the book in 2014, where it then becomes illegal to be gay in Nigeria, which was also quite interesting, but also showing like found family, the family that you choose, but also like what people had to like go through, or still going through today. And it was just, it was a lot was happening in the book, and I just really liked it, so I ended up giving it 5 stars. The next book I read was Blood Justice by Terry J. Benton Walker. And so it's the second book in the installment of the trilogy, and we're basically following the events of what happened in the first book and how the characters themselves are actually trying to like figure out, oh, why is it that this person is doing this, what's that, but you're in multiple people's heads as well. So we also follow generational trauma, generational wealth, but also like magic, but also different types of things, because there's a lot of like family drama that's going on between like the family that we're following, like the two families, and like their own drama. I see, like, if not for like because the beginning of the book was a bit slow, but when it picked up again, I actually really liked it. I gave 4.5 stars. The next one I read, You Should Be So Lucky by Cat Sebastian. So we're basically following this one guy who is still grieving from the fact that his other half passed away, but his other half was quite wealthy and made sure to make sure that if he passed away that he would be okay. But then because of like he's working for a news paper company, they say that okay, this one thing like baseball is very interesting and people tend to like to read it, we need more people to actually do it. So okay, this one problematic, not necessarily problematic, it's just like a person that really is good at baseball ends up having like a dip in his like performance quite now, and that's quite normal. And so he embarks in like getting to know that person, helping them out, but also understanding the multi facets. Is it multifacets? The multi the way things are a bit different. I I feel like that is not making any sense. But however, like he was helping him, and they end up having like this type of like love story. But the book is a lot more than what I'm trying to explain. I'm not explaining it properly, but you get what I'm saying. I ended up giving 3.75. It was actually quite sweet. I liked it a lot more than the first book, and both of the characters were just so endearingly lovely. It was honestly sickening, but I loved it. The next one is Gold by Raven Kennedy. Kennedy, yeah. So it's the fifth book in the installment, and essentially is where it takes place directly after one of the main protagonist gets sucked into a different world and ends up finding out, oh, she actually is royalty, and a lot of things is going on. It was okay. I gave it 3.5. So the next one I ended up reading. So it is called so the English is Camilla, but in German it's Camilla die Vampiren by Sheridan L. Fanu. So essentially, we're basically following this one girl. Her name is Laura, and she basically lives with her dad in like France. Like they have a manor. It's basically very generic, like their debutante balls and society and all this type of like not really Bridgerton, but like a bit before that because they still have like carriages and stuff like that. And so one day, once she and her dad are just like minding their own business, doing their own thing, basically a very mundane, boring, not really boring, but just mundane life. A woman ends up like coming into their life because of like her mom would say had to like leave her there because they have to do something. So basically, she takes up this one woman to come stay with her for a bit, and her name is as per said in the title, Camilla. And Camilla is kind of mysterious, kind of quiet, is very has a weak institution. Is it institution? Yeah, it has a weak institution. So basically, she's sick. They're not necessarily sure know why. So basically, it's just her friendship with them and everything that's going on. But end up finding out that Camilla is quite peculiar and different things are basically going on. Finding out that maybe Camilla is not actually human. And I don't know, I guess because I didn't really like, because this is like a classic and loads of people really loved it, and I saw it through book talk to be quite honest, but it just did not feel like many things was going on in the book. They were literally in their room in the manor, maybe walking at their estates in the garden, but that was pretty much it. Nothing really much happened. Sure, there was a lot of angst and longing, but yeah, I ended up giving it 3 stars. It was okay, but maybe if I read it in English as well, I might feel different about it, but I'm not necessarily sure. The next book that I ended up reading is A Magic Study by Maria V. Sounder. And it's essentially the second book into the installment, and I actually quite liked it a lot. It also like shows like when we were following the first book with her being a poisoner. Here's her having to go to the magic school to escape being executed, and a lot of things goes on from there. She ends up meeting her brother that quite frankly is a lot of work, but at the same time you end up finding out why exactly he is like that. And I gave it 3.75. It was actually quite nice. And then this other book I ended up quite honestly it was really enjoyable and kind of like bittersweet. So it's Legends and Lattes by Travis Bowry. So this is the book here. Surprisingly enough, I got this book years ago when it was like before it actually became super popular and was picked up by Tor. This is like the self-published edition. So basically, we're basically following this one orc who her name is Viv, and so she's basically had enough of the being a band-aid type of like mercenary type of life and basically just wants to have a simple life. And so she, with all her savings and basically retiring, moves to this one like city, or not really city, like a town where she embarks on wanting to have a coffee shop. And along the way, because like there's something else that is also not is mentioned in the book, she ends up meeting this ragtag of different types of people that she employs, or like the type of like friends that is not family. She makes a family. It's more like not the family that you're born into, but the family that you create, and basically are the best type of people for you. And it was really sweet. Like I don't know, it was just so sweet, and all of the characters are so lovable in a way, like especially the ones in her inner circle. And did I mention a sapphic? Yeah, very nice. Then the next one and the last book that I ended up reading today is Masquerade by O.O. Sangoyomi. And it's also another book that I really love. So basically, we're basically following our main protagonist, Ododo. And so Ododo hasn't had the easiest of life at all. Like, she is basically in Timbuktu with her mother and her aunties, where they're basically blacksmiths. And to become a blacksmith, especially in the time, because it's taking place in the 1400s, it's not because of like it's something that they enjoy or something that they're just good at. It's more to do with like women who, according to society, has failed. So they are either like failed marriages, running, escaping from a marriage they didn't want, are barren or don't want to have kids or can't have kids. And so because of this as well, like they are basically blacksmiths. They have like it's hard and gritting work that they do. However, people don't necessarily understand it and assume that they are possessing witchcraft because or still, especially around the time as well, they're very superstitious. So every little thing that does not make sense to them or they haven't seen is witchcraft. And so one day, Ododo helps this one person who looks like a beggar and thinks there's nothing of it. Obviously, her mother is furious, only to find out that, oh, fast forward, lo and behold, she gets kidnapped. Great. And so she ends up in Yoruba land, and she's then having to, without unceremoniously, she's supposed to wed the chief, and he is also has his own reputation. Not only that, his character, from what I could gather from the book, is not only is he very arrogant, but also, you know, those type of people that, especially if you come from a very privileged lifestyle, is that nothing has ever been denied to you. So at this point, it's like a born and given that you get everything. And from that type of thing, you have to imagine Ododo sacrifices so much for this man, and he's the most useless asshole that I've read, and he doesn't really understand it. And especially also having a mother that, honestly, to me in the book, if the mother could marry her son, she would. Deadass, she would. And so a lot of things goes on, but honestly this book was also a villain origin story because it made so much sense of all the things, but also it tackles like it's basically post-colonialism, what the relationship of a mother and daughter, that it could have been so much better if things were more set. A friendship that never happened that could have happened if they met in different circumstances. Also like rebellion and different types of things going on, and also very rich is the book is richly dipped in Yoruba culture because they were mentioning so many different types of things that I know in past since I'm Nigerian myself, and it was actually very nice. And so yeah, that's all the books that I ended up reading. And so we'll get to the last bit, which is my TBR. Have I ever stuck to my TBR? No. Will I stick to my TBR? God knows. But so I kind of am hoping to read quite a few books actually. I believe it's 8. I mean, by the time you're watching this video, it's going to be the second week in August, and I have yet to finish everything. So there's 8 books that I want to read. Is this stack over here? So right now I'm reading The Waning, this one, and I'm also going to be reading Hard Boiled and Hard Luck by Banana Yashimoto. This one, those are the first 2 that I'm reading. Then the other two books I want to read are from the library. So it's The Lonely Londoner, this one, and also this one, this Madonna in a Fur Coat, because I only know that this one has a lot of longing and God knows what, and I was just like, you know what, a bit of longing is nice too. One of the books that I just honestly, I've not really seen many people read this book or review it, or maybe I've just been on the wrong side of the internet, is The Fall That Saved Us by Tamara Juri. And all I know about this one is basically it is a fallen angel and a succubus or a devil, and it's sapphic, and why the hell not? So there's that one. Then Dazzling by Chico Dile Emelumadu, this one. And I know that this one is basically from 2 girls. One takes up a deal with the devil or a spirit, and another one is doing something else. And mostly the cover that really drew me to this one. Then there's also Friday Black by Nana Kwame Ajayi Brenia. This is an anthology of different stories, and I really love Chain Gang All Star by the same author, so hopefully this will also be something that I enjoy as well. And then the last book that I also plan on reading is an anthology of Black lesbians through Mouth of Rain, edited by Brianna Simone Jones. And there's a collection of stories, poems by Black lesbians, African American descent, and Afro diaspora lesbians. So yeah, that's all the books that I plan on reading. And by the way, like I always say in every video, how is your reading? And what type of books do you think you're going to be reading this month in September? And yeah, thank you so much for watching my videos if you're still here, and have a lovely day, yeah?